Hello. Regular viewers to my channel will know there's two video recorders I've been working on that I've not been able to succeed with lately. This is a Sony SuperBeta. It's an NTSC model SL-HF600, and it's got a mechanical problem such that it's not stopping when it should do during the lace-up, as a result of which it's smashed a component which is drives this kind of shuttle assembly, which has some tape guides on it, and I repaired it and it smashed it up again, so I need to get to the bottom of that. The other job that's somewhat stalled is this Philips VR2324 V2000 machine, and I came to the conclusion that there's a fault which can't be repaired on the dynamic track following board. Probably the CPU, actually. There's a special programmed CPU on there. It's fascinating though. I've been learning about dynamic track following and how it works. I think we might do a video about that because it's a subject that doesn't seem to be covered very well anywhere else. But first, let's have a little work on the SL-HF600 SuperBeta. We're going to at least get this component replaced again and look at what the problem is before we proceed further with that one. I've removed the motor so that we can operate this all independently. We'll come back to the motor later. So this is a guide assembly which travels along here, and there's also an assembly that travels on the other side, which I think I can get to later, and they need to be timed up before we reassemble. But there's something wrong here because this is colliding here with these guides and components, which shouldn't be. And furthermore, I think these should be stepped out of the way like this. And furthermore, this mechanism here is also, because it's not set properly, not allowing the end of loading switch to operate, which is why it was driving continuously and smashing itself up. So we need to understand what the mechanism is in here and see if there's a problem with that, if it's not set up correctly, and see if this is out of position. If it is, then we can get that set up properly, then retime the two sides of the mechanism and reassemble it. This was one of the broken blocks, so plastic and spring assembly that's supposed to be in here had snapped off because it was driven too hard into the end, beyond the end stop, if you like. We're never going to be able to repair the plastic component here. Now, last time I raided one out of a scrap C20, and I'm going to have to get another one from another C20 and be extremely careful not to allow the machine to smash itself up again. So we have another donor SLC20 here, and I'm sorry to any beta aficionados who are going to get really upset because it's one of the very rare red ones, but we need that part. Anyway, the cabinet work's not in very good condition on this. So we'll take this apart and get that part out, and then we need to fix the fault that's causing the damage on here. I'm taking the real drive assembly off the bottom here. Right, I've removed the real drive assembly so I can have a look at what's going on here. I think this may have slipped out of position. This was above there and should be down there, and that might be what the problem was. So I'll reassemble this and see what it looks like. So I've reassembled it, and I think it might be better, but I'm not certain. This is the back tension assembly here, and there's a, well, you can very often see it but you can't on this particular deck, is the back tension band goes around the supply spool and it regulates how much friction it applies to this depending on how much tension it finds on the tape, courtesy of this. So anyhow, moving on from that, I may have hit another snag. This is being laced up. And these guides pop up. That one travels under here up to this location, and then they get the second one. And I was having trouble with the second one earlier on because of the damage it had done to itself. This one wasn't popping up cleanly. It was sticking, and I think it's because it got damaged at the base here. So I popped on this one here from the SLC20. I've been having a bit of trouble because these screws are absolutely tiny. But anyhow, that one pops up nicely. When it comes out from here, it pops up, as you've just seen, and travels along. This one goes under here, ready to engage with this one, and this one goes into, should latch into here. So this one's hit its end point here, but this one, I'm not sure if it has. Has it? This one's in place. Is that right? Feels like it isn't going far enough. Or maybe it is. No, maybe it is. Maybe that's fine. Okay, I've been worrying about nothing there. I think that is correct. So my operation to change this component seems to have worked fine. Yes, alright. They're sat properly. All that looks good then, but I'm still unsure about this assembly here. I think that should be further back. And I'm not sure what's supposed to actuate that. There's a plastic component here, which I don't know if you can see, which I think pushes on there, and that is related to this. And I'm not sure that that's correct, and I'd really like to see a properly working deck, because to me, I think that should be pushed across when it's lacing, swinging this arm out and also making this switch work properly at the back. And that is presumably pushed by one of these levers, so maybe one of those levers isn't correct. It'd be really helpful now if I could see this type of deck in operation. When you look at the positioning of this equipment here compared to the shot we have from the Love Radios clip, you can see something's wrong. I don't know quite what's wrong, but the plastic component here, which is driven by this lever, isn't correct. It isn't the same, is it, as in the shot from their video clip. This part here should be a bit further down, and this part here should be sitting up in this, the top of this slot. Just doesn't look quite right. So we're going to have to take this off again, the underneath of the deck, and see if we can fathom out how this component should be positioned, because it just doesn't look right. On the clip we've seen from Love Radio, he has this plastic arm in front of the back tension arm, and I just do not see any way that's possible. This couldn't get in front of here, so either it's a manufacturing change between the two models, which is possible, or maybe their machine was faulty. But I don't see any error in this, so I think I'm going to have to just reassemble that. So that goes into this. No, I've done that correctly in the past. That's not a problem. Let's reassemble this. So we're having a problem with this switch. It should be operating. Fortunately, you can't see it because it's buried under this plastic, which is unhelpful. But I have connections made to it. One at the top and one on the connector underneath. So if that switch was making, I would hear the meter. So we're at the end of the loading position and it's just not operating that switch. Sure, it shouldn't drive any further than that. I'll move my other test point to the other end of the switch, I think. If I short the switch terminals, we'll just prove that we're metering it properly. Okay, so we'll detect when that switch is made. It should be made now because we're fully laced. So there's a problem with the mount on this switch. It's got a pivot, and I've no idea why that is, and it's not being allowed to pivot correctly. So there fundamentally is our problem. We don't know why that's got a pivot on it and why the switch is not making when it reaches the end point. I think we may have to take that switch off and have a look at it. Which may mean I have to take this top guide off, this plastic guide which is used to guide the shuttle assembly. I'm going to have to take that off, I think. Okay, let's unlace, get everything out of the way and take that shuttle guide off. Okay, it's fully unlaced. Let's take the shuttle guide off and see if we can see the switch underneath over here. Well, according to the service manual, all I need to do is release 3 screws, 1, 2 and another at the front, 3 down here. And take these wires off, and I should be able to take the this guide away, the shuttle guide away, and then I'll be able to get to the switch. But no, life's not like that. It's too well stuck. I'm not going to get this out. I don't know what's holding it in, but something sure is. I can just about get to the switch terminals at the back. If I short them out, you should hear the meter. There we are, momentarily. So now, looking at the switch itself at the front, which is supposed to be activated when the deck gets to the end of travel. I'm just about to see the switch there. If I if I activate the switch, it should sound, and it's not. So that would appear to be the reason that the deck was overdriving. The switch just isn't working. Exactly how this mechanism works is another question. I don't know, but the switch itself isn't working anyway. Oh, it is just. But if I just activate it like that, it doesn't sound. But if you push the terminals hard, I can make it to work. So dirty switch terminals then. Okay, we'll clean that up with some deoxit. And this is our offending switch, and we still need to clean it up a little bit more, but at least we're heading in the right direction now. Still not quite there, but we'll improve that in a moment. There's the actuator, just pushing on the actuator, and that's now working reliably. Good, that's the end of loading switch fixed. I'll just reassemble this plastic work. It turns out that I may have made life unnecessarily difficult for myself, as I often seem to. It turns out that the switch is easily accessible from the back of the deck here. There it is. And if I put my screwdriver on the actuator, it's working reliably now. So that's a problem solved. It may be that there's no more faults with the deck, but I'll have to put it together and try it. Right, we're set up again with the meter to detect this switch at the back here, and I've temporarily hooked up a power supply to the cables for the loading motor. I've reassembled all this as per the service manual. You have to time both sides of the rack, which is straightforward. So now I will just drive it to the forward position. This still doesn't look right to me, it's colliding. And we've got to the fully laced position and we've not met the switch. Now of course what should happen now is it meets the switch and then this solenoid actuates and locks it in place. But that's not happening. So it should get to that position, lock in place, whichever way that solenoid goes. But that's not working because, well, it's not powered up at the moment. So we're not meeting this switch. That's our problem. Now if I unlace again, it's all looking good, but then it seems to go a bit wrong here because the shuttle assembly's colliding with things here. And that shouldn't be happening. Okay, it all gets back to the proper place there, but there's something not right here that's causing things to collide. That should be pushed over. So there's still a problem with that part of the mechanism. Something is wrong with this part of the mechanism. But at least everything else is fixed. And the switch does work, or can work. And unlace it again. Look at this collision here. This is not right, is it? And I think that's what's been snapping this. When it's under full power from the motor, you've been stripping that apart because this has not been sitting properly in the... Oh look, it's pulling out of the... That's all gone wonky now. It's been pushed off the track. So this is not right. Looking underneath, this is this switch we're trying to actuate. It does work. Let's put the power supply on and get it into the fully laced position. Right, it's fully laced and this switch is not actuated because there's something wrong with the way it's set up. This is this arm that the switch is mounted on. But we don't seem to be hitting the correct part of the cam that's supposed to operate that switch. If I push the switch, it will work. So there is our problem. Something's not set up right there. Hopefully you can see there's a roller there and the switch actuator here. And what's supposed to happen is that roller should fall in to a slot in the cam as it gets to the lace position, and then the actuator will actuate. So let me drive it to the laced position. Right, there's the slot it should be falling into. So there's something wrong that's holding the switch out. It should be allowed to swing in, and this roller here should be going into this cam slot, and it's not. So that is our fundamental problem. Now there's something, it's to do with this part here, which is swinging that switch, as you can see. But the problem must be at the top, because there's no way that that could push any further that way down, because it's hit the deck. So the problem is not down here at the bottom part of the deck. It's something to do with the way the switch is mounted that's causing it to sit too far out. So the problem, I think, has to be on the top of the deck. So in this fully laced condition, this is what we were pushing on the other side just now. Something is preventing that switch from swinging far enough round to be correctly engaged. So something is set up wrong here between this arm, which has the switch on it, and this arm, which has the end of tape sensor and is pushing on the back tension arm. This cannot be configured quite right. I can only assume that this arm here, which is presently sat with a metal bracket on this side of this plastic assembly, is on the wrong side of here, and it should be on the other side. So I think possibly this arm is misplaced relative to this plastic arm, and I think I need to just raise this plastic arm here, release the clip, raise it, rotate it, and put this on the inside of here. Let's try that. Okay, let's raise this arm, swing that around underneath it, and put it down. Is that now correctly placed? So if I drive it to the fully laced position, will it activate the switch? Let's try it. Right, the switch is made because it is fully laced. Let's unlace. That looks right, and let's lace up again. I'm running on very low voltage, by the way, so that's why it's lacing very painfully. That looks right. This is a very scary moment, you know, having done so much work on this. We're at a position of being able to test if the mechanism is correct. So we'll start by powering it up on the 110 volt transformer. Okay. Let's load a tape. I'll be ready to hit the power switch on the transformer if it tries to smash itself up. That looks correct. Try fast forward. Okay, bit crumpled tape. I didn't ask for eject, I hit stop and it didn't eject, which was slightly odd. But fundamentally, I think the deck is running. Rewind. That's correct. Eject. Where's the eject button? Much better than it was. I think we can connect this up to a monitor and try it with a tape with an actual recording. Okay, let's test the machine. I have an NTSC tape. It's actually a Beta 1 recording, which is the highest speed type, but this machine should be capable of playing that. Let's hope this works. So pair it up. Display is on. It's a little dim, but it's working. Power the machine up. Try play. And we have playback. Try the tracking control, wherever that might be. The VU meters are working. Is that the tracking control? No, that's sharpness. Tracking's here. Okay, I can get it to miss track if I go far enough off one end. And the picture looks, this is recorded from DV, and it looks, I mean, a lot like DV. Tracking's a little bit to one end, but it's not necessarily, the machine is not necessarily designed specifically for Beta 1 recordings, so it perhaps isn't that surprising. It's definitely working. Picture search. Freeze frame. Can't seem to get freeze frame to work. Why would that be? Problem with the button perhaps? Or maybe, let's try it with a remote control. Yes, let's try remote control on it. This is a remote control for a different machine, but let's just prove it works. No, it doesn't work at all, so maybe it's a different set of control codes. Let's try this remote control, which is apparently being configured. So if I've hit VCR on here, and if I hit play, aha, good. So if I hit pause on here, does it pause? No. Maybe it's designed to not pause when it's playing a Beta 1 tape. I'd have to read the instructions. But everything else seems to work. How about eject? Does that work? Even eject works. Which is a little illogical really, because if you eject a tape on a remote control, you can't put it back again. Right. Good. Shall we revert to the blank tape to see if it'll attempt to do a pause on that? So I hit play and then pause immediately. No. Pause just isn't working by remote control or by front panel. Is this operator error? This is probably a PAL recording, so it won't play this. Yeah, it's just a scrambled mess to it. But can I hit pause? Yes, I can! Okay. So there's not a fault. It wasn't pausing because it was in that Beta 1 mode. And when it had a blank tape, it also wouldn't pause. If I go back to Beta 1 and hit pause, Ah, what's happened? Something's just jammed up. Try that again. Oh no. We were doing so well until that point. What's jamming up? Oh dear. The mechanism appears to be jammed. It looks like the take-up side has become jammed. Oh, we were doing so well! I'll have to take the loading assembly off and have a look. So I'm reassembling that with a little bit of grease on the gears this time. Let's confirm that we can drive the gears. That looks right. Okay, well, let's reassemble again. Okay, that looks correct. Let's power it up and try again. And back to our test tape. Oh, why is it jamming? Okay, it's not a happy machine. We're going to have to eject by hand. Something is definitely jamming the supply side of this ring. From what I can see of the teeth, which is quite limited, they look fine. So maybe we've just gone one tooth further over than we should. Assembled the gear on the top. I'm trying to do it from the service manual, but you can't be absolutely certain. So I'm putting it back one tooth. Well, that looks right. Let's refit the screws and belt and see what we get. Okay, well, it's unjammed. Let's see what happens if we try it again. That sounded a bit odd, didn't it? No, that's not right at all. No, that's definitely out of alignment. Take it apart again. Okay, we'll try it again, but I don't think I've done anything differently, so I don't know why the supply side is continuously jamming up. That's not right if it's doing that. So it'll do crazy things now. Yeah, it shouldn't do that. So it thinks it's the tape is down. That's all wrong. Well, I'm going to manually load the tape. Try it again. No. Terribly wrong. Well, it's not working. I'll power it up and it will clonk on this side as it tries to unlace, and this sensor here should see the metal, so it should know that it's come to the unlaced position. and it's obviously failing to see that for some reason. And then when I put a tape in, it starts to lace up immediately before it's driven down, which is just nonsense. So I don't know why it'd be doing that. One of the switches here got stuck down. One of those switches, the outer one I think, is the tape protect, recording protect, but this inner one should be the tape in. Is that been sticky? All over the place. Well, we've made a huge amount of progress with this. You know, we've had it actually working. So we should be able to fix it now, but it's developed a new fault, a new mechanical problem. So we're going to have to look at the service manual and try to work out what's going on there. Well, at least we've got a fighting chance we should be able to fix it, which more than could be said for the VR2324. Came really unstuck on this one a little while ago because we ended up needing parts that we just can't obtain. We really need a
special delivery.
Oh, wonder what's in here. This could help. Well, what do we have? A VR2324. Cosmetically, it's not quite as pretty as the other one, and there's a distinct burnt smell. Well, we all know what that is, don't we? The reefer capacitors in the power supply have exploded. So I'll take this one apart later, and we'll either try to fix this or my other machine by borrowing parts from one to the other. So we should hopefully be able to make one out of two. Look forward to that in the future. So I hope you've enjoyed this. We've made some good progress with the SuperBeta. Do please call back and see me work on these and many other audio and video technology items in the near future. Bye for now.